Today, my guest on the first time storytelling broadcast is Derick Lugo, the author of The Unlikely Thru-Hiker, a Brooklyn born New York City urbanite who hopped on a train to Georgia, grabbed a taxi at the station, and told the cab driver to drop him off at the beginning of the Appalachian Trail. Just crazy stuff. Derick is here to share the story of his first time hiking the 2,000 miles Appalachian Trail. Oh my God, Derick, I'm so happy to have you on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to share my story.
Okay, so let's start with you're born in New York. What were you doing? What was your life like before you decided you were going to go hike the Appalachian, the AT? I'm going to go with the AT Trail.
It's just AT, yeah. Being from New York, I was in the service industry, so I was a bartender. And being a bartender, I was able to take days off to travel. So I love to travel. So I was bartending, and then I would take like a couple weeks off to travel. And in 2012, during that time, the year before, I decided with the whole traveling thing that I wanted to live in Italy for a few months to a year. So in order for me to do that, I had to sublet my apartment here in New York City and pretty much sell everything I had. And I went off to Italy and didn't know what else I was going to do, but I knew I wasn't going to come back right away to New York City. Long story short, I ended up being back in New York. A friend of mine was working on a project. He wanted me to help him with it. And then when we were done with that, I had nowhere to go. I had a free time. And I had read this book years ago called A Walk in the Woods. You probably know about it. I'm a big reader. Yep. Someone handed this book to me. They didn't say anything about it being about the Appalachian Trail. They just said, it's a funny read it, you're gonna love it. I read it, and yeah, it was hilarious, but the one thing that stuck in the back of my mind was this trail that not a lot of people get to accomplish. And it felt like a challenge. And during that time in my life, I wanted these challenges. I'm a big storyteller, and I could sit down and listen to like an older person talk about their life for hours. And I remember during that time thinking, I want to be like, when I get old, I want to be that old guy that has stories. In order for you to have stories, you need the experience. And so I want to do these things. So I had the time, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna hike the AT. And I've never hiked before. I never pitched a tent, never slept outside. I'm from New York City. Won't roll like that. Central Park is probably the wilderness for us. You know, we don't think of going to the rural South and just start hiking. You know, we go to the beach or to the ballpark. You know, we don't roll like that. It's not something, and we can go further into that later, but it's not something that my peeps do. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to do it. And within a week and a half, this was in March of 2012, I grabbed my gear. I went to this outfitter, and I walked in, and I was like, hey, I'm going to thru-hike the Appalachian Trail. And they were like, cool, well, I'll help you get your gear. What kind of backpack do you normally use when you hike? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't hike. And he was like, you've never hiked before, and now you're going to do a 2,200-mile trail, which if you guys don't know, the Appalachian Trail goes from Georgia to Maine. It's a 14-state, 2,200-mile trail. And I had never done anything like that. And now I'm asking this guy to help me grab this gear that I didn't know how to use and start through hiking the Appalachian Trail. So yeah, I just happened to have the time, and I was inspired to do so. I wasn't prepared. I don't recommend people just to jump up in there and just, you know, at least know that you like to hike. I didn't even know that. I just knew I wanted to get from Georgia to Maine. That was it. Like, you're a hiker, so you know you like to hike, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea. Luckily, within like a week, I loved it. A few weeks, I was like in love with it. I met people. I started by myself. They saw I didn't have any experience, helped me with my gear, and then never judged me, never knocked me because I didn't know what I was doing. But they just encouraged me, and maybe throughout, like if I saw like a hiker a month later on the trail, they would be surprised to see me. They're like, "Oh my God, you're still on a trail," you know. But other than that, I've never got anything negative from people on the trail. If you ever do it, you'll see. I didn't know this until I actually stepped into it, that the community there is huge and they're very supportive. And the trail is not just about the terrain and the scenery and the views. No, it's a big part of it is the people. It changed the trail, and the people changed my life forever. The way I'm a New Yorker. I have a chapter called A Suspicious Mind where I talk about like people being so, I was kind of like, what's going on here? People giving us, there's something called trail magic where people will leave stuff at trailheads for hikers, like food, because you know your hikers all they're doing is hiking all day long, burning thousands of calories. You can't replace it. We're always hungry, and they'll leave us food, sodas, water. Like when I was in New York State, there was a drought and a heat wave, and there was no water. All the streams were dried up, and people were leaving gallons of water. So that's like trail magic, like, and they're called trail angels, people that leave it. So for me to see that and experience that, I was like, what is going on here? You know, being from Brooklyn, you're like, no one leaves anything for anyone. Like you just step right over it.
Yeah, I mean,
So that was,
you really entered a whole new world and a whole new existence. And first off, I think it's so awesome that it is a book from years ago that planted that seed. And that book is it is funny, but it's also makes it very clear that it's something that is difficult to undertake, that is going to challenge you, that's going to push you, that
good point. Yeah.
and I love how you said that in order to have stories to tell, you have to do things, you have to
Yeah.
experience life, and you do have that desire of wanting to be that person that can share all of those stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just starting to do a free webinar, how to become a first-time storyteller, for that very reason, to be able to express the things that are happening in your life and to connect with people on a deeper level, and to open up and be vulnerable about the things that you've done and that
Mm-hmm.
you've experienced, and that the opinions and the thoughts that you have around that. So man, you're my kind of guy. I love all of that. So you gave us already a lot of information. So let's back it up a little bit to,
Okay.
because you're from New York, your family's from New York, your friends, and you're sharing with them you're going to do this, or you're keeping it to yourself?
I told everyone. The reason why I did that too is because I wanted to put it out there in a universe where, okay, I'm doing it and there's no turning back. And once you tell people, it's like, okay, you're doing it, so are you going to do it? And I had like naysayers. They were just like, no, man, you're like the most metrosexual dude in New York City. You like designer clothes. You like to groom yourself. There's no way you're gonna be able to live in the woods. How you gonna bathe? You know, how you gonna do this? How you gonna do that? So yeah, as soon as I knew I was going to do it, one of the things I wanted to do is just put it out there and tell people, and especially my family and friends. And my brother, he was like, dude, I don't think you should be doing this. You're going to the South, looking the way you look, and it's going to be. He was like, buy a machete. He was like, buy a machete. They come in small sizes. You can strap it to your chest. I'm like, no, there's no way I'm going to take a machete to the Appalachian Trail. I mean, it's not an undiscovered country. It's a trail that many people do. Mind you, I didn't realize that it was only a certain type of people that do it. I just thought it was an adventure. I went into it blind. Didn't know how to pitch a tent or any of that. But and my family was like, dude, you're not gonna. And because they said that, that was one of the reasons why I was like, okay, now I really have to do it.
Okay.
But
So
my younger brother was not having it.
So as they're bringing up all these questions, it's only firing you up more. It's not discouraging you, but are you starting to think a little bit like, yeah, I don't know how to do those things, and you just have the confidence, like, hey, when the time comes, I'll figure it out?
When that happened? I had all my gear, and then when you hit the southern terrain, the approach trail, like right before you get the Appalachian Trail, the south part of the trail, right in the beginning, you have this arch. And as soon as I got there, I was like, what am I doing? Like I went a week getting all my gear, took the train there, still thinking, okay, I'm going to do this. And once I saw that and this was real, I had gear, I had mini stove, I had water pump, I had bear bag that didn't know how to hang, all of these things, a tent that I didn't know how to use, stuff that I was going to have for months in my backpack, didn't know how to use. And I was walking into something that was like a different world to me. So that was like the first time that it hit me hard. It sunk hard. Like, what am I doing? And then for some reason, it just went away. And I said, you know what? I'll figure it out. I'll just figure it out, and I'll go with it. Worst case scenario, I'm on the trail, and I'll get off it. Although for me, that wasn't an option because I had nowhere to go. I had just came back from Italy. My plan was to be in the woods for 5 to 6 months, and that's what happened. I wasn't going to turn away. And the one thing that helped me along the way was having an acceptance of what was going to happen on the trail. I knew I was going to hike in the rain. I knew it was going to be cold. I knew it may snow, which it did. I ended up hiking in the snowstorm. I accepted that all this stuff was going to happen, and I was going to continue doing it. Having that and having like a positive energy and a positive set of mindset, that actually helped me, at least helped me start and gave me that drive. And then along the way, I fell in love with it, with the people and everything. I learned more about it, and that carried me the rest of the way. But to start it off, just having that was the best way for me, anyway, to start.
Yeah, you definitely had the right mindset. And as they say, you got ashore and you burned the boat. It's just like, there's no turning back. The only way is forward. So you're at the start of this trail, you've got your pack. It's not a light pack. So you're feeling the weight of the pack, the weight of what you're undertaking, and you start taking your first steps. Tell me, like, because again, never hiked before, you don't know anything about that. Your boots aren't broken in, your feet aren't broken in, like nothing is broken in and ready to go. So what are those first few days like as you're experiencing what this is like, and you're starting to feel some of the pain of what this is going to be like? And
there's two parts to that, because when I first started the approach trail, I don't know if you know, there's like 750 steps that you start. My pack was overweight. It was like 42 pounds. And I see these steps and I'm like, they're steps. I got this. Like, I can do this. I took my first few steps and I was like, oh my God, what is going on here? Because again, I've walked up steps before, but not with a 40-pound pack. So I start that and I'm out of breath. And I started with, there was this one guy from Switzerland that was hiking in front of me. So we kind of, the first day.
They're intense. They're intense hikers.
Yeah, them and the Germans, like there was a lot of Germans, people from Switzerland there. It was great. And he was like hiking like it was nothing. And I was like losing my breath and I was, what is going on? And that was just the first day with the steps. And the second day, that night, I did 8 miles that day, but someone was with me. Like that, I didn't hike by myself. The next day, I did, which is another story. But doing that 8 miles, going that night, thinking that I was going to stay up all night because I'd never slept outside in the wilderness. I'm from the city. If I don't hear car horns, then I'm not going to be able to go to sleep. I was out. I passed out. As soon as my head hit because I slept on my dreads. So when my head hit my dreads, I was out. I slept from 7:30 to 7:30. And I was like, whoa. And it was a deep sleep. That's how exhausted I was. And then the next day, everyone was up, ready to go. I left 2 hours after everyone. So then I was on the actual Appalachian Trail by myself. First time hiking by myself. And everything I would hear, scared me. Like I would hear squirrels running on dry leaves and I thought it was a stampede of boars. I would like freak out. What? So every little sound was scaring me. That was like, I did 8 miles the next day, saw a few people, but yeah, it was like, I was just looking around, all shapes in the woods, looked like a beast. Like one time I thought I saw a dragon, it was just like crazy beast out. And because my mind started playing tricks on me. So yeah, I would say the first day was hard physically. second day, mentally was hard for me. And it took a few days for me to like snap out of that. But within a few days, I started hiking with a group. And that made it easier because I wasn't by myself. I think it would have been a little different if it was just like I would hike by myself and see hikers along the way. But when I camped out, I was with a group of people, especially the first week because it was so crowded with people like attempting the through hike. But then I realized that I love to hike alone. I can hike with people. I'm okay with hiking alone, but camping alone, I can't. I need people around me. Like that was one thing. And it took me days before I was able to come out of my tent. Like if I had to relieve myself at like 1 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't do it because I was so terrified because it was pitch dark out there. And I would stay in my tent until the morning. But there's one chapter in my book where I talk about it was super early. It was like 11 and there was no way I was going to be able to hold it. And it took me like an hour to convince myself to actually step out of that tent and go somewhere to like relieve myself. So yeah, it was scary.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean that's because it was so different. Because it's not. I mean, walking the streets in the morning, early morning streets of New York City, that's a lot more dangerous than stepping out of your tent in the middle of the woods. But it's crazy because it's what our norms, our environment, what we used to growing around, and you threw yourself completely in the unknown and had to face everything that was coming at you. So how would you describe your personal development and growth throughout those months that you were on the trail?
I would say it started off again with the people that I met and learning that I didn't have to be suspicious with strangers that were really nice to me. I felt like, what do they want? Like, why are people like this on the trail? When people ask me what's the one thing that I got out of my entire experience is that I've always been a people person, but now I'm more open to saying I love you to my friends. Like if I have friends and when we're done hanging out, I will say I love you. I embrace my friends now. I don't know, now with the whole COVID-19 thing, you got to give them like an elbow. But I love people, and I'm more open to sharing my feelings with people because of my experience on the Appalachian Trail and strangers just coming up to me. And there, for many reasons, I stuck out, and people just approached me without even saying hello and start saying these amazing things. And the one thing I say is that when you meet a stranger in like quote unquote the real life, you need that icebreaker where it's like, okay, what is it that we're going to start the conversation? But when you're on the trail through hiking, we're all doing the same thing. And the icebreaker is that. And then you just start talking to people. Within a day, your friends. Within the second day, your best friends. And then within like a week, your family. And I have family from all over the world now. I through hiked in 2012. I have like I may not seen someone for like a year or two, and we'll just pick up right where we left off if I see them today. It's a beautiful community. So find out about nothing about, and now being part of it, I feel blessed because of it.
Oh, that's incredible. That's so amazing. And I envy your journey, and I can feel what it was like. And it's so incredible that you did take this journey. We talked a little bit about this for going live because I mentioned I do hike quite a bit. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people that look like me on the trails and not as many that look like you. And that's something that is heartbreaking to me because hiking, it's not just one, it is exploring nature and how incredible and beautiful it is, but it is that connection that you get to make within yourself and that you get to experience with other people that share in that exploration, discovery, being in nature mindset. So what would you say to encourage someone who has never even considered hiking? What would you say to them to convince them to go ahead and, even if just a day, go hit a trail?
Well, going into this, I did not know that was a thing. I didn't know it was an issue that not a lot of Blacks or Latinos hike, or especially through hike. So I didn't know that was a thing. I went into it wanting to do something different, wanting to step out of my comfort zone. And it's a reason why I wrote my book, because I wanted people to be inspired to do, not just hike and not just to go out in the wilderness, but to live their dream, to step out of their comfort zone, to step out of that box that they've been living in their life. And I wanted people just to feel free to do whatever. I would say if people are thinking of doing something like this, the outdoors, don't do my approach. Don't just go into it blindly. I would say be smart about it. First of all, do a day hike. Go out there. I don't care where you are. You can hike somewhere. I live in New York City. Didn't realize that I can actually hike from New York City to the Appalachian Trail. So Bear Mountain. I didn't know that. But there's a lot of areas that you can go to where you can just do short distance hike, a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles. If you're thinking of doing a longer hike, you can do weekend. Don't just jump in to do a through hike. To convince people to do a hike, I would say, listen to my stories. I have a passion for this. I can talk about my through hike, about the Appalachian Trail, about the wilderness for hours. Just listen to people, listen to their passion, listen what they got out of it. I can't convince you. You have to convince yourself. You have to want to do something amazing with your life. And going out there and exploring the world is amazing. So I would say just listen to stories. Reason why I wrote my book was to share my story and hopefully to inspire people. I'm not going to. It's funny because I get questions about why isn't there a lot of Black people on the trail and why this and that, and how can we diversify the trail more. And I'm not one to preach that to the entire Black community, but what I'm doing is sharing my story, because within my story, I'm hoping will inspire not just the Black or Latino or the Asian or someone that has never done anything like this, but everyone, and to do whatever they wanted to do. So for me to share my story, to share that I knew nothing about the Appalachian Trail except for what I read through a walk in the woods, and then going into and experiencing and getting something amazing. Just know that when you jump into something that you really want, or you've thought about doing it, that it will change you one way or the other. It will change you.
I love it. And that's why I started the 365 First Challenge. And that's why I'm doing the first time storytelling. That's why, because it's just exposure, bring people who have done things for the first time and how much it impacted and changed their lives. And you're right, you don't need to go to the extreme of what you did. You can start with little things. And that's the beauty with first time, buying your first pair of hiking boots, go on your first hike, and then you go from there as you enjoy doing it. But experience it. Don't say no to something unless you've tried it first. Try it, and then you have a true opinion about okay, I tried it and this is, I didn't like it. But again, keeping an open mind that it might be because you didn't encounter the right people, you weren't on the right trail. There's so many terrains, there's so many different things just hiking, but in life. And I love the fact that before this, you headed out to Italy, and Italy has so much to offer. And there's some great hiking in the Dolomite Mountains if you ever go back to Italy.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about a little bit, though, because I know you experience this, because we all do when we do something so significant. It's the return back, right? So for months you're on the trail and you had this life-changing experience, and you're about to go back to Brooklyn, New York, go back to the city life. What were you feeling? What were you thinking?
One of the things that I was worried about was that I would lose that whatever I got from the AT, that special feeling that I was feeling. I was afraid I was going to lose it when I got to New York City, because New York City is very jealous. She just wants your attention. She will take whatever you have. There's dreamers that come to New York City that want to do this and that, but New York City has other plans for you. So it's really hard. It was going to be really hard for me. And halfway through my hike, for many reasons, I needed to write about my story. And I decided I was going to start right away. So I didn't want to go back to New York City right away. And my thing was like, I remember I was hiking, and the Appalachian Trail is so magical. I was hiking and I was like, man, you know what? I wish I had like a cabin I could stay in for like 3 months and I can start writing my book. Cause that's where like authors go to write a bestseller. They go to cabins, to write, or teenagers go to get murdered. They go to cabins, in the woods. But so I was like, man, I wish I can. I'm doing this because I had my trekking poles and I was going like this. I wish I had somewhere I could start writing. And like 2 weeks later, a hiking buddy of mine, his family came and took us into town. We resupplied and gave us food. And they said, look, we have a cabin in Pennsylvania. If you want to stay there for 3 months for free, you can start writing your book. That's magical. So what I did was I got off the trail in September. In October, I stayed in the cabin to start writing my book for 3 months because I didn't want to go back to New York. I wanted to have at least some of the book written and then start like a routine of writing, have a momentum of getting up in the morning and writing. I knew if I had that, I had a chance of finishing the book when I went back to New York.
And obviously that was the first too. I mean, you had never written and published a book before.
I've written
Okay.
before,
Okay.
but I had written a couple novels, but this is the first time. This was the one thing that I was going to share with people.
Okay.
You're right. I didn't have anything published yet. So excuse me. And so I started writing it, but in my mind, I knew I was going to share it with people, and it was going to get published. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew I was going to do it. So I just started writing it. Got to New York, I think it was like 5 months later. And I kept writing, just kept writing. I got another bartending job, but kept writing. I would work at night, write during the day, and work at night. And within by the end of that year, 2013, I had a manuscript and I was ready to go. So for me, it was not going straight to New York because I didn't want, and I've heard stories of people going back to their real life and then, life happens. I wanted to at least extend that. And in writing this book for, I would say 2 years after the AT, writing the book and revising it, and editing it, I was reliving the trail. So it was as if I didn't leave the trail. So I wasn't like some people who just like went home and started living life. No, I was reliving every moment with all these amazing hikers every single day when I was writing. So I would say I physically was on the Appalachian Trail for 6 months, but I was on the trail. I was mentally on the trail for like 2.5 years.
Oh, great. It sounds like it was a very therapeutic way of staying connected with the experience as you were readjusting to life outside of the trail and back in the city. And now, did your friends and family comment? Because you said you became a lot more open and hugging and sharing. Did they comment like, what's going on?
So I've always been a people person, so that wasn't a thing. But what really came out of it was that people saw that I finished it and I kept talking about it. I got off the trail and they knew I was writing about it. And all of a sudden they wanted to do it. I had a friend that she was like, she's in the book, her name is Nina, and she was like, man, I would never do that. When I got back, she brought some hiking shoes, trail runners, and we went to Bear Mountain and did like a hike. Brother, he was like, yo, if you can do it, I can do it. And quickly got a bunch of gear and we went hiking and we ended up camping. There's actually a short film that the Appalachian Trail Conservancy did called Trail Brothers. And it followed us for my birthday that year. I wanted to hike from New York City to the AT. And it followed our adventure and how he thought he can jump right in without having the experience and like do what I was doing that I've been doing for a while now. So he learned the hard way. And we learned that he likes to camp out. He's not a hiker, he's a camper. So he'd rather just drive into a camp and and just hang out. I'd rather just hike for a long time and then camp out and go. So it was going to be really hard for us to do that together. So my thing was my friends that knew nothing about the AT are now experts of it, of the AT, because I through hike, which is great because the more people that know, the more people get to enjoy this amazing thing that we call hiking.
All right. Well, I'm curious, what is your next challenge? What's the next first? What's the next big thing you want to undertake?
Well, I want to continue sharing my book. So this year is all about like it was going to be a book tour, and now it's more of a virtual book tour. So I'm doing talks like this and virtual book clubs.
Well, go ahead.
So I
Go ahead.
wanted.
Tell us about your book and how people can get it before you tell us about the
Oh,
next
okay.
page.
So my book is called The Unlikely Thru-Hiker. There's several reasons why I was unlikely. I was lucky, not, but I was unlikely. And so you can get it on my website, DerickLugo.com. And where was I going with this again?
You're on the virtual book tour, and
oh, okay. I got distracted. Yeah. So yeah, I was going to do a book tour, but now it's a virtual book tour. So I'm going to stick with that until the end of the year. I'm working on a children's book version of The Unlikely Thru-Hiker, doing an audio book of it, and then in like a year and a half, there's a hiker in here called Shanti. She started the Appalachian Trail on her 50th birthday. So in 2 years, it'll be a 10-year anniversary of our AT hike. So she's thinking of doing the PCT for her 60th birthday, and I'm thinking of joining her. So we're playing around with the idea of doing a PCT through hike. But before that, I have other writing projects I wanted to do. But the big one will possibly be the PCT in 2022.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I have the PCT is on my list, and it's one of those where, because I'm 42 right. Yeah, you'll have to keep me posted. I'm 42 right now, and I'm like, I don't want to wait till. But I mean, that's awesome. She's going to do it at 60, and you can do that. But there's also some peaks that I want to reach, and yeah, once you get hooked on hiking, it's an endless list of possibilities and things you can do.
It's true.
Ways
so many trails,
and where you can push yourself, and it's definitely there's a trip in Nepal that I want to take, and it's like 3 different 2 peaks plus base camp, and there's all those things. And right now with all the entrepreneurial projects that I have and businesses, it's I mean, there's so much to enjoy in life.
That's true. Yeah.
And like if you're sitting there and you got nothing to do, like start exploring.
Yeah, you're doing it to yourself, because there's a lot to do. A lot.
Yeah.
And it, and you don't have to do a long distance hike. There's local like trails all over the place. So starting there would be great.
Oh man, this is so awesome. All right. I could talk to you forever and ever for sure. So let's switch over to the first time lightning round, and let's learn a couple more things about you. So the way it works is I'm going to throw out some first time options. If you've done it before, you say up, or you've done it before. If you're on the app, you would swipe up. If it's something you've never done, not interested, then it's left. And if something that you've never done, would like to do, you would swipe right. So you'd be like, add it to my list. All right. So a volunteer at a national park.
I haven't, but I would totally
do that.
I would totally do it. Like volunteering as far as doing what? I've done trail maintenance actually.
So you've done it. Yep.
Yes, I have.
Awesome. All right. And I think that's something amazing and great to do if you do have a passion or a hobby, to give back to it through volunteering.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
100%.
Travel to Asia. Oh, I think we are frozen. Can you hear me?
I haven't. I don't. Okay. I'm gonna go left. Yes, I'm gonna go left because I'm a vegan, and going to Asia, I don't know if they got like vegan. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. We're good now.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna go left with that one, because I'm a vegan, and going to Asia, I don't know if there's a lot for me to eat there. It's like they got fish and all that. So I'm gonna go no for now. So I don't know. There's other places I want to go to. That would be the last place I want to go to, is my point.
Okay. Well, I would definitely say you do not have to worry. They have lots of grains, lots of vegetables, amazing food, and lots of vegetarian dishes all across Asia. And
there's a difference between a vegetarian and a vegan. So, like, it's slightly different. I'm sure they have a lot of vegetarian stuff, and I may have to, if I do go to Asia, decide to go, I would probably have to adapt to what they have. But right now, I don't there's so many other places I want to go to right now.
All right, excellent. Well, if you do want to get into Nepal and the hiking there,
That's
eventually you'll
true.
find yourself in Asia. Okay, fair enough. Fly in a helicopter.
I would do it. I would
Okay.
do it. I'd be a little scared, but I'd do it. Yeah.
It's good to do things that we're scared of.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
play beach volleyball.
Beach volleyball?
Beach volleyball. Yep.
Yeah, I'd do. Yeah, I've never done it, but I'll do
Well,
it.
we'll do it. All right. Do cryotherapy.
Cryotherapy?
Yeah, so it's the cold chambers where you go in and it's like
I'm
whatever
trying to.
200 below freezing and you're in there for just a little while. It's really great to for your muscle
Yeah, why not?
recovery and all that good stuff.
Right, let's write that one.
All
Yeah,
right. Swing in a hammock.
of course, I've done that. Yeah, I love that.
I figured you had. All right. Learn to DJ.
Not, not, not interested. Like
Not interested.
professionally, no,
Nah,
no,
just
no,
for
no. I
fun, but
love
yeah.
music. I love music for fun. Yeah, but that's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. I have a friend of mine who went to school for it. It's pretty hard.
Yeah. Okay. Write a speech
Yes, I mean I've done it,
and
and
delivered.
I would do it again. Yeah,
Yep.
I love writing, telling speeches, doing talks. Yes, without a doubt. That's a
What
good
was your first one?
I did a talk at this gala in DC. Crazy enough, it was a hiker gala, and they just asked me to just do a talk about like my adventure, and I did it, and I loved it. It was my first one. I was like, I could do this as a career. I could do this forever. So yes, without a doubt.
All right. Awesome. Play Angry Birds.
I've done it. I've done it. Yeah.
All right.
I don't anymore, but I've done it.
Yeah. It's actually a game I've never played. Make beer.
Yeah, that sounds. I've never done it, but right, I would totally do that. That
You
sounds
do
like
some
fun.
home brewing. Try it out.
Yeah, right in my tub.
Yeah, it's become a big thing during the
Yeah,
coronavirus.
yes, I have a hiker friend that does it, and it looks
Yeah,
good.
I did. I interviewed expert advice before your first time homebrewing on the 365 First podcast, and it's a very fascinating interview. And although, well, one, it does take a long time not to make it, but for the beer to be ready, and then
Hmm.
two, it makes a lot of beer. Like one batch or like a 5 gallon makes like 50 bottles of beer. Like
Oh
you,
wow.
you gotta enjoy some drinking if you're gonna start making. If you're
You
gonna
better
start
like beer if you're gonna make it.
or have a lot of friends
Oh, that's true.
like that like beer. All right, let's switch over to today's first time story prompt. And today's prompt is first smoke. First time you smoked anything.
Okay, I don't smoke cigarettes. I never did that. If you're talking about the marijuana cigarette,
It can be anything.
I don't smoke. I think I do have a story. I have a quick story. So when I was like 16 years old, you want to experiment, and I had some, believe it or not, some Jamaican friends, and they smoked the marijuana, and I was like, you know what? I've never done it before, and they were really good friends. So we went to their place, and we were watching a reggae concert that they put up, and they were like, try to smoke. I don't know. So I took a couple puffs, and I fell asleep. I was out. I was just like, fell asleep, and I was like, what just happened? I didn't know that was supposed to be like that happened when you smoke. But I'm not really a big, believe it or not, like I'm not a big smoker. But that was my first experience, like smoking. I've never told anyone that, especially like social media. It's hilarious.
Oh, that's the beauty of the prompts and first time stories. So I was 6 years old when my brother offered me a cigarette.
What?
And I know, not only he was 9, so he's only 3 years older. Not only did I say no, I was like, I'm telling mom. So I told him. And then as a teenager, again, with my brother, he used to throw parties in the garage and, there's passing a joint around and I'm like, no. So like you, it's like I found smoking just a
Yeah, I
disgusting
don't.
thing. I'm like, I was never attracted to it. But the one and only time that I smoked something was after. So I spent 24 years in the Marine Corps. And once I became an officer at the basic school, it's called a mess night. So this is this dinner event. It has formalities to it. anyways, we're all in uniform. And at the end, after the event, everybody was given a cigar. So we're all standing around and people are lighting up their cigars. And I'm like, ah. Not anybody was peer pressuring me, but I was like, what the heck? So I lit up
Hmm.
the cigars, one of those like small cigars or whatever.
Hmm.
Ah, so disgusting. I took one or two
You didn't
puffs.
inhale it, dude. You're not supposed to inhale it.
I don't even know. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, okay, yeah, no, this is as
It's pretty
disgusting,
nasty.
yeah, as I thought it was. And that was that. But that was my first and only time smoking.
I had my first Spanish cigar in my first Cuban cigar in Spain. Someone had one, and they were like, "Here, we got an extra one." And they taught me how to do it, where you're not supposed to inhale. And I thought it was pretty cool. Like I was like, drinking coffee and then smoke like, but you don't inhale it. But it was more of a show thing. That was the only
Yeah.
time I did that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in hell. I still remember how just the taste, everything
Yeah.
was
So
just nasty. Yeah. All right. So final question is, how have you been making the best of the current situation with the pandemic?
it's a good one. So I live in New York City, so it's the hot spot of this craziness. When they first told us the lockdown in March, it was March 15 when they locked everything down. I was like, this is great. I need the time. I totally love it. I could be quarantined. I could do this. Within a month and a half, I'm like, oh, I need to hike. So what I've done was I focused on my writing, and losing my book tour, I was like, what am I going to do? And all of a sudden now I have like a virtual book tour. So I've been doing a lot of book clubs, virtual book clubs. People have it and they'll invite me doing that, writing my next book, working on a lot of articles. I have an article that's actually due today for a magazine, and blogs. So I'm doing a lot of writing, staying busy that way. Um, and just focusing on sharing my hikings, because I wasn't going to let this stop. Like, and other people aren't letting this stop them from sharing whatever they're sharing. Hikers are learning how to adapt with it. One article that's due today, I talk about my experience with the pandemic and how hikers are adapting to it all and how they're preparing for when the trail is open. So I've been doing a lot of writing.
So the trails you're not allowed to leave the city yet to
Um,
go hiking.
You can, but it's recommended that you don't, for safety reasons, because they want
Yeah.
you, the whole social distancing thing. But they've closed some national parks and stuff like that. So, but I know people that go hiking. I know someone that went to the Smokies, did 20 miles in the Smokies. So I'm in New York City. It's kind of hard. It's like 45 minutes to an hour drive, or train, and I just at this point I wasn't willing to do it. Right now I'm getting pretty antsy, and in a week or two I'm going to try to explore a little bit more. But as far as that, yeah, I just been writing and catching up with reading too.
Oh, well, it definitely sounds like you've been making the best of it and been very
Yeah,
productive. This has been so awesome. And thank you so much, Derek, for joining me on the first time storytelling broadcast. You
thank
are
you for
amazing.
having
Great
me.
story. And I wish you all the very best with everything that you do. And if you're listening to this, either now through the live broadcast or on the podcast when his story hits, make sure that you go out and you go get his book.
Oh, thank you.
Have a great rest of your week and best of luck with everything.
Thank you. You too.